Great, I think I should be live. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel if you're new around here. If you're not, hey, good to see you again. I just thought I'd hop on today and talk about something that was, well, kind of on my mind, and yeah, I thought it was worth talking about. I think it's a good deal, but also I think it might mean a little bit more than it looks like on the surface. So as you can see here, Universal Audio dropped into my email this morning with this new deal, which is to get a Sphere modeling mic free with any rack mount Apollo. Now the Sphere is a microphone that I've been looking at for quite a while. I think if you're like me and you do, I kind of do production, I do songwriting as well as mixing and the usual kind of audio production stuff, but the songwriting and production side of things, particularly if you're in a writer's room or something like that, I think the Sphere is quite a cool microphone. Because it's got so many different models in it. You can model various very, very expensive models of microphones that, yeah, would cost you thousands. Now, realistically, they're probably not as good as the real thing, but actually, when you're in that situation, you want to get an idea down quickly, you want to make it sound good, you want to work quickly. I think it's a really useful tool and something I've been looking at buying anyway. And they've packaged this with the Apollo rack mounts as a free product. Now they're saying it's got a £1,315 value for free. I mean, a lot of places like Anderton's are selling it for about £999. But either way, it's a lot of microphone to get with a product. I mean, if you buy a lot of these, it's about a third of the price. So to me, it looks like Universal Audio are trying to get rid of these things, and I reckon it's probably because they are lacking in a certain area. I'll talk about that in a sec. So I love the UAD stuff. I use an Apollo Twin, and I love the fact that it's all integrated as well. I like the fact that you can use the Twin with the bigger rack mounts, and you can control the monitors, and you can do all sorts of things like that. But you'll see here, I've got the an email from KMR Audio as well this afternoon about it. And I think the Andertons are while stocks last, and they're already out of stock on all of them. So whether that really is available at Andertons, I'm not sure. But I know that the Sphere mic really integrates well with the Apollo. You can get the Sphere software and use it on the Apollo chips, but that are built in on the built-in DSP, so it can run its emulations latency-free through the DSP, and you can choose a mic to model through, just like you can with their normal plugins, and also use the plugin after the fact if you wanted to. So use it in your DAW to choose the right take and comp it and everything like that. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to be adding quite such an expensive tool to these interfaces, and I think it probably signifies the end of this range of Apollos. A lot of people, there's a comment on the UAD forum, this user group here, that talks about it being overstock. They've got too much stock. I guess they've had a lot of kind of delays and things with COVID, and maybe they've all kind of backed up. I don't know, but I reckon it's probably the end of it, and this range, because this range doesn't cover Atmos. And UAD, well, Apogee have got an option for Atmos. Focusrite have got an option for Atmos. And I feel like those company, there's the Pro Tools, there's the Matrix, which is, probably the main rig that people are using now for Atmos mixing. And I think it's probably time UAD joined the fray. I know that they have a lot of people who are just dedicated to what they do, and they don't really want to move away from the UAD thing. I think once you get into the UAD ecosystem, you've got to stay in it, especially if you start buying the plugins, because they're quite expensive. Even if you get them on a deal, they're nowhere near as good as a plugin alliance thing. And they just have a lot of disciples. I will say UAD's drivers are really good. They are very consistent, and when a macOS update comes out, they are really quick to get that sorted too. I think some of the deals here are pretty mad. And as I say, I think the Atmos thing is what we're looking for. This ends on the 31st of October, so that's only a month of this deal. And I'm reckoning maybe around November we might see something new. There's no mention of Atmos at all, really. If you type in UAD Atmos, you'll get the odd mention of something. There's one article where they mention Atmos, but they don't mention any control of it. Because with these X models, you can control the you control the whole monitor setup on a 7.1 system. So if you've got the 16 or the X8P, you can do monitor control for all of the speakers on that. Just using the device, you can set it up so that the twin is your monitor controller, and it controls all of your monitors for your surround system setup. And you can't do that on their older models, and nor can you do it, but in software you can't gang them together or anything to that number. So I think it's probably a sign that the Atmos interfaces are incoming. There is a thread where Drew from UA on that same forum here, this Apollo users, mentions that the 7.1 on the X series is only capable because of what's built onto the DSP in the unit. And I'd probably suggest that that's going to be the same thing for Atmos, that they're going to have to build a separate unit in order to control that. I mean, why that needs another unit, I'm not really sure, because, Apogee just took their Symphony and made it Atmos capable. Similar thing with Focusrite, but that's what it is. But I think these are a really good deal, and I'm quite tempted to get one just for tracking, to be honest with you, because I think there's a lot of value for money here. The one thing about UAD is it's great upkeep for the old stuff. So if you've got an older unit, you can put in a newer card, a Thunderbolt card, and run the old stuff with your new system. I really like that. And here we've got these HEs are Heritage Editions. So these are the plugins you get with the Heritage Edition. You get the Helios preamp and EQ, the V76, which is the Telefunken type preamp, the Oxide Tape, which is tape, the 3A, which is great compressor on guitar, and a few other little bits and pieces. I like the 3A. I like it more than the 2A probably, the models specifically. The Fairchild, which buying a real one is, you have to sell a house to get one. Teletronics L22A, the newer Pultec plugin, which is really good. I don't think there's much that compares to that out there. The 1176s, which are again very good. Their emulations are really good. They're the new ones, not the legacy ones. Pure Plate, and then the 610 preamps as well. So except for probably the Neve stuff and the API stuff, that's all some of the most useful, most purchased UA stuff that I can think of off the top of my head. So you're getting all that, which will cost you a lot of money if you don't buy it in a sale, and will cost you a lot of money in the sale anyway. It's probably £1,000 worth of plugins. Plus you're getting the microphone. So something like the X16, which is a £3,000 unit, 16 outs. That's also a Heritage Edition, and you get the free microphone. So that's kind of £1,000, maybe £2,000 saving really, and a £1,000 interface if you added it all up, and saved, take the savings off what you're going to spend. I'm not sure what's going on here where the X8P is actually more expensive than the 16, but again, Heritage Edition X8P, looking about 3,000. I think a lot of people were talking about buying the X6 and the discount you get there. So as in buying this X6 here, and you save that £1,000 of the microphone, kind of comes out as a £1,000 interface. I just think, I think it's a pretty good deal, particularly if you're tracking, if you're thinking about buying a Sphere anyway, which I was. I think there are deals to be had here. Now, I'm not sure. The thing that's holding me back is the idea that the Atmos unit could come out. But if you're invested in the UA system and you use these for tracking in something like a project studio, a bit more like this, or in a mid-sized studio with a relative budget where you maybe have a couple of choice outboard pieces, but you use the UAD stuff for everything else, I think buying one of these now would be a pretty good idea. Like I say, they're well supported for a long time, and it's a good way of getting quite a lot of stuff for your money, I think. If you weren't already going to buy a Sphere, I think it's probably not quite such a good deal. And again, who knows what's around the corner. The thing with UA is with the, well, it's not abolishment, but the fact they're using Spark now, which is their native plugin system. Do you need to be buying interfaces with DSP? Maybe not. And the Vault system is also out, which is a similar idea, where you can, it's just like typical audio interface like an Audient or a Focusrite, one of those lower budget interfaces where it runs. It works as an interface to get signal in and out, but all the plugins and processing happens on your computer. It's going to be interesting, an interesting time. I think it is time for a new interface that makes a bit more sense with the UAD stuff, and they need some features that are a little bit more killer, something that makes you go, oh yeah, I need to have that. Because at the minute the DSP stuff looks quite expensive, and yeah, I think it's just time for an upgrade from UAD, and I think that's probably what's happening here. I'd be really surprised if they did this deal and then there wasn't a new Apollo that came out straight after it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I think it's a good deal, and I thought I'd mention it to people if they're interested. If you're a bass player or a guitarist, some of the plugins are really, really good, particularly the amp models. They're really useful to have, and I use them quite often in a pinch just to get a sound up, or if I just want to jam, just pop on a simulator. The Ampeg one is really good. You can try it out on Plugin Alliance as well. But yeah, the Ampeg one's really good, and so is the Marshall that you get for free with these anyway. They're both really good plugins and great for just jamming along, put on your favorite tracks, plug in, zero latency, so you can just plug straight into the interface, play along, really good fun. And yeah, I use Apollo stuff all the time for everything else I do, mixing and so on, and they're really great tools. They are pro level tools. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments in the replay. And do you agree? Do you think this is kind of the end of this series of Apollos, or is it, as they say, just, you know, overstock and trying to shift a few units? Let me know, and I will see you guys very soon.